All right, hey guys, this is Kevin Ramirez. Thank you for joining us on Society Speaks, the podcast where we seek out the truth about the most prevalent topics in the fitness industry. This podcast is brought to you by Iron Society Gym. It's a warehouse-style gym in Miami, Florida, in the West Kendall area, located at 13301 Southwest 131st Street. Come check us out. Check us out on Instagram, on Facebook at Iron Society Gym. Hello to whoever's watching. Hello to whoever's listening. Today's topic is, we're actually going to be discussing athlete training. So we're very, very excited. It's a very special podcast. Special because this is the first podcast ever. I'm actually getting my jitters out right now because I'm a little shaky right now. But it's the first podcast ever. This is history in the making. January 10th, 2018. It's approximately 10:07 with 25 seconds right now. And if you're watching, if you're listening, mark your calendars. I know I am. This is where we're starting off, guys. This is awesome. So I'm here with 3 co-hosts: George Gutierrez, Alex Credo, Zach Mann. I don't know how I'm sitting here in this room right now because the knowledge between these 3 guys just overshadows me like incredibly. And just want to say I'm so happy and blessed that I've been a part of Iron Society. I've been a part of the gym for 6 months, and every time I walk in there, I learn something new, and it's because of you guys. Thank you. And thank you for joining us again. So yeah, since it's the first podcast, we're going to introduce ourselves. I'll start off and then we can go around the room. And so my name is Kevin Bryant Ramirez. You can call me Kevin Bryant for short. That's what my mama used to call me. You can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Kevin Bryant. I actually just changed my Twitter handle. Nice. So yeah, I'm the marketing guy. I'm the dumbest guy in the room right now when it comes to fitness. So I'm gonna be asking the questions and just listening like everybody else at home. So yeah, George, why don't you introduce yourself, state your name, where you from, credentials.
What's up, man? First, Kevin, I appreciate you guys, all of you guys having us here. And that's the reason why you're here, because you invited us. A little bit about myself. It's my name is George Gutierrez. I'm a strength and conditioning specialist. A little bit about my background. It's in baseball. I played Division I baseball, and then I was fortunate to sign professional baseball with the Kansas City Royals. So I played with the Royals in the farm system. And then towards my end of my career, I ended up playing several years of independent ball with the River City Rascals in the Frontier League. Following that, I, everything kind of went the baseball route. I became a head coach at a high school for 6.5 years. In the meantime, I was also finishing my master's degree in exercise science and also training athletes as I coach baseball, which led me into, starting the gym and starting the whole athlete training, fitness, full time.
And we actually grew up together. I just want to say that.
Yes, we did.
On camera and recording. This guy taught me a lot about baseball. Alex, what's up, man?
So I actually have known George for about 18 years now. I actually played baseball with George in high school. That's where we met. So after high school, I no longer played sports, but I went to University of Florida and majored in exercise sports science, or applied physiology and kinesiology, which is what it is now. And after that, in 2008, I opened up my own gym. So I opened up Southland Strength Conditioning back in 2008 in June. And then back in 2014, I believe, I actually just happened to run into George by chance. And we decided that we were going to move into the same location and start training athletes and start training also general population. And I think about, 1 year ago, we decided that we were going to open Iron Society and have everything basically be under one umbrella. So we've been doing that now ever since, and that's why now that we're here, we're trying to do this podcast.
Nice. They're actually, the two founders are in the room. Zach and I'm impressed. I feel the vibes over here. The two founders, these guys, if they hadn't started that or gotten back together, we wouldn't be here. So, what's up, Zach?
What's up? I guess I'm Zach Mann. I'm the youngest guy in the room. I'm the young buck. I've only been, credentials-wise, I'm getting my bachelor's at FIU, but I've kind of been all over the place. I went to Huntington College in Montgomery, then went to Miami-Dade, then went to South Alabama for a semester, and then transferred down to FIU. But, I'm grateful to be here because, amongst the knowledge in the room, I barely know shit, to be honest with you. But, in my opinion, I'm grateful because I've known Skip since high school. I'm the one person who doesn't play baseball or has not played baseball here. I played football. I played basketball. I played like roller hockey, a bunch of shit like that. But
Nice.
I guess like credentials-wise, I've got CPT, NASM, and NCSF, NCSF, and then NASC, which is Speed and Explosion Cert. I just try to read a lot and try to listen to George and Alex as much as I can and take away as much as I can from them every day, whether it be through their training that they do with their athletes or what they do with their general pop. And then, I'm extremely grateful to even step my feet into Iron Society every single day, and I appreciate y'all, and I appreciate this podcast. This is fun as shit, so let's get after it now.
And I just want to say I did play college baseball. So I know a little bit about fitness, but not as much as these guys here. But I wasn't very good at it. That's the only thing. So let's get into the topic, man. Let's create value for everybody at home. Specifically today, we're talking about athletes. What is athlete training? How does it differ from general population training? The Joe Schmo who's gonna go in and just do his reps or lose weight or whatever he wants to do. Why is it different from an athlete to a general pop? Alex, you want to take this?
Sure. So the biggest difference between just general population training and athlete training is that athletes are always going to be training for a specific competition or a specific season that starts and ends on specific dates. So when you talk about athlete training, you're actually training somebody for something specific versus general population, where if someone comes in and says, hey, I just want to lose 10 pounds, if they lose those 10 pounds in 6 months or they lose those 10 pounds in 1 year, they're going to be happy either way. But if you have an athlete that comes in and says, hey, listen, I have a competition July 1st and I need to peak for that competition. Well, if you screw up and you have that athlete peak a week later or a week before, they're going to have a miserable experience. And same thing goes with an athlete that's getting into the season, where if you screw up the athlete's off-season training and you screw up the athlete's preseason training, well, that athlete is going to go into the season not being as either fresh or as fast or as strong as they can possibly be. And that then is going to cascade down throughout the season as far as their performance is concerned. So I think that's the biggest issue when you're talking about athlete training versus non-athlete training or general population training.
Let me add to that. Everyone should be training like an athlete, even general population. But Alex made a great point by saying season goes and what's the off season, what's the preseason, what's the in season training. That's when you really get specific into training an athlete.
What do you mean by everybody? The regular Joe Schmo on the street?
Even a general population. Well, you don't want to make it seem to someone coming into the gym, if it's not let's say an athlete playing a specific sport, a competitive sport, you don't want to make them feel that they're disabled, that they can't squat or they can't do a net ball toss or whatever the case may be, because it's not true. You get what I'm saying? And obviously, it's not that everybody's going to do the same exercise, because that's also not the case with an athlete. You picking the right exercises at the right time, it's also very important. But we see this all the time, and not only we see it all the time, but we hear this more often a girl or someone that's overweight, that they're already predetermined what they're going to do at the gym. Where our job is to show them and teach them that it's okay for them to squat. It's okay for them to do a certain exercises just because they saw it on a baseball player or a football player. It doesn't mean that they're not allowed to do it, or they won't get the chance to do it. The question is, when will they be able to do this, an exercise, right? So that's something that reading this question, that's something that I was thinking about. It's what is athlete training? It's exactly what Alex said, but I wholeheartedly believe that everyone should have an athlete in them. Everyone should be able to move properly, because just because you're an athlete doesn't mean you're not gonna have faulty movements that you need to learn. You see what I'm saying? So where is the difference there? Is my point is, everyone should have an athlete in them, and that's that gets really overlooked, man. General population really belittle themselves at times because they want to cut themselves short.
Yeah. But now, do you guys think athletes should be trained differently, or maybe general pop? I mean, I know they can do the movements and all that stuff, but as far as like, I don't know, the program that they're following, do you think they need to be trained differently?
Well, they do, because when you do get an athlete, obviously you're gonna see some variables that Alex mentioned. It's the, where is the kid in season? Is it in season? Is it an off season training program? Is it a preseason training program? Yeah. What are the needs of that athlete? What age is that athlete? All right, is it a young kid versus a professional athlete? Even to the point where, is it a professional athlete that's been in the league for a long time, that's already a veteran? That even changes the way you approach things. See what I'm saying? So is it different? Absolutely. But how different? The approach to the athlete training is because you need to look at the variables within the season. Whereas general population, you also need to look at other variables, like, what do they do for a living? Yep. If it's someone that's sitting and they're sitting at a desk for hours and hours and hours, and that person it's incurring some faulty movements or pain because of that, that needs to be addressed. You see what I'm saying? So, their off season is, like, it's not a season that they're playing, but they go to work every day. So our
so
job
you guys
is
ask them these questions? You guys ask them these questions? Like, Zach, do you ask them, like, hey, what do you do when you get somebody from a general population? What do you do for work? Are you very, does it physical work? Is it?
For sure. I mean, honestly, like, I'll ask them the questions, but the great thing nowadays is that social media is so prevalent. So I basically get to watch what they do without becoming a stalker, basically. But honestly, like, Snapchat and all these things it's so prevalent that I could see what they're doing in terms of, like, if they're sitting all day, like, because most people like to Snapchat that they're at work, at the office, and like what George said, when people sit all day, it creates faulty movement patterns, and then it creates tight hip flexors, which that all could lead back into the first question, which was, can a general pop or can a general population person train like an athlete, or George's point saying that they should have an athlete in them, because I might have a general population person in the gym, and they see maybe a baseball player or a football player coming in, and they're doing some sort of kettlebell front squat or some sort of landmine press, and they like George said, they sell themselves short, and they just think that they can't do that because they're not an athlete. But even though they're not an athlete, they can still do that. And the good thing is that when you see movements like that, they tailor towards the general pop, because some people might have imbalances, which is okay, but those movements that are done with the athletes can be done with the general pop, and it's not anything to be afraid of. So I feel like that all kind of works well. But yeah, I definitely asked them what what do they do? Like if they sit all day, if they're up all day, like if they're moving, if their daily activity, like recommended activity levels are high or if it's low, like it all tails in, especially for general pop. Like you like it becomes more or less specific in terms of like what they do instead of like an athlete where you kind of have to tailor their program towards their sport or competition or what have you. So, but yeah, definitely.
Dope, man. That's
Yeah. It's all right.
That's really dope. Yeah, man. I didn't think, so much what goes into assessing just general population and athletes. But let's move on with athletes. Like, I was having a conversation with Alex earlier today. We had like a 30-minute conversation, and he brought up something called GPP and SPP. First of all, Alex explained to me earlier, and then you guys can jump in. What does GPP and SPP stand for, first of all, and how does it relate to training and athlete training?
So when you talk about SPP versus GPP, the main difference there is that GPP is general physical preparedness. That's going to be everything that doesn't involve a sport-specific skill. So general physical preparedness is bigger, faster, stronger. Just becoming a better athlete in general. And increasing size, increasing speed, increasing strength, increasing explosiveness, all of that. SPP is specific physical preparedness. So that is what you do when you hire a pitching coach or a hitting coach or a fielding coach or a position coach or a throwing coach. Anybody that's doing the exact same movement that you will be completing when you compete, that is specific physical preparedness. So that would be what your hitting coach does with you. General physical preparedness is to make you become a better athlete. So us as strength coaches, we are responsible for GPP. We are responsible for making people bigger, faster, and stronger. And that in turn will then allow them to become better athletes because now they won't have the same physical restrictions that they have when they go back to their SPP coaches.
Okay, so you...
That can get lost in
Yeah.
the whole.
Yeah.
I don't mean to interrupt, but
No, go
that
ahead.
can get lost with a client. It get lost in the shuffle because this needs to be clear. Parents, for the most part, don't think that the strength coach is going to make an athlete. Let's say a soccer player is going to make an athlete, or a soccer player better, a baseball player better, because they're going to do specific stuff in the gym to make them better.
Yeah.
And that's not the case. There's nothing really in the gym that you can do to simulate that unless you have something in the gym like a batting cage and you go hit there. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's very, very. It is a very, very fragile topic when it comes to, strength coaches that are trying to get, great information out there, and an audience that doesn't really understand that, versus somebody just trying to sell something where I'm gonna make your kid better.
Like your
hitter
your kid is not gonna score more goals or hit more home runs just because he did squats.
There is a fine line, though. There is a fine line because generally, it's at the end it just boils down to. For example, I'll take a baseball player. If the kid is swinging and he's not really being successful swinging, his movement patterns are just, that's really what's causing the swing to break down. It can carry over if we get that kid stronger. So potentially, because the kid is stronger, then he's going to have better efficiency when he is with his sport-specific coach. Right,
Okay.
his hitting coach or his baseball coach. So when he's taking those batting practices, because the kid just happened to get stronger, happened to get faster, or his movement qualities have increased, it can carry over. But we didn't do anything as far as perfecting the swing.
The skill.
Exactly.
The skill, like it's kind of you just brought up in my head. I was thinking of Barry Bonds, like. If Barry Bonds was somebody that wasn't hitting home runs before, maybe if he did or not, take steroids.
He did. So
He did.
If he did or not, if he did, that wouldn't make him hit home runs. But he was somebody who was already, he had a good swing. He was hitting
there's
what?
A guy
40
there's a
miles?
guy that could potentially be a Hall of Famer even with this whole topic and steroids. And this
Yeah.
is my opinion. Whatever he did, that's that's up to him. I'd say that's his personal life. But it kept him on the game longer if he did. And, at the end of the day, you got to be able to get that barrel out and hit the ball. If that's the case,
Yep.
right. Sorry. What George was saying is the requisite skill was already there. He was already a Hall of Fame caliber player before he took any kind of performance enhancing drugs. So when you take someone who already has all world skill level and you make them a physical specimen, that's what you get. You get 73 home runs in one season. You get an OPS over like 1.2 or whatever it was. It's just ridiculous. But if someone like me takes steroids, it doesn't matter how many steroids I take, I'm never going to hit 70 home runs in the major leagues because I don't have the requisite skill. I don't have that SPP the same that he does. So just because I'm either stronger, bigger, whatever, it doesn't make a difference as far as sport-specific skill is concerned.
True. Now, Zach, I'm curious because I've seen you work with fighters at the gym.
Yeah.
Now, SPP, GPP,
Yeah.
is that in fighters as well in that sport? Like,
Yeah, I mean,
What do you
it all
work with
goes
then?
back to in terms of they have their sport-specific coach in terms of how to maybe grapple or do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or something like that, but I can do stuff in terms of getting them stronger that will kind of carry over, not in terms of teaching them how to throw a better punch, but it'll teach them how to, I guess, be a little bit more powerful, a little bit more stronger, but it's not in any way, shape, or form. I'm not going to teach a fighter how to wrestle. I'll make him strong.
Yeah.
And like with my fight, like with my old fighter, I made him strong, but it didn't. I wasn't gonna if he's in competition, which he was in competition. I wasn't able to give him like the teaching caliber to be able to teach him to wrestle because that's not my job. I'm supposed to just make him strong. I'm supposed to build his work capacity up. I'm supposed to work with GPP or work his GPP to enhance his competition, depending upon where it was in the block, where it was in the training program, where it was periodization wise. As long as it enhanced his fight, then it was good. But it wasn't. I can't teach him how to wrestle. I can't teach him how to throw a punch. I can't teach him how to defend a takedown.
Yeah.
I can do things with sled work that can help. I can do things with a barbell that can help. I can do things with a kettlebell that can help. But it won't. In essence, it just will not carry over. Specifically wise, it will not carry over like that. It will carry over general GPP wise, but not SPP wise at all.
Now, guys.
If that makes sense. Which.
No, it makes total sense. It makes total sense. So, now, how about depending on the level that they're in, meaning, whether they're in high school or in the college, in the pros, or even younger, when they're young, in Pee-wee leagues and in the Corey League, how much of GPP versus SPP are should they be doing? Should they be doing more GPP, general
Physical preparedness.
general physical preparedness, or specific physical preparedness?
Exactly.
Think of it as a pyramid. All right, the younger you are, you got to build that pyramid. So the younger you are, you're generally going to need more of the general preparedness, physical preparedness, and it could potentially be just different movements. Like if it's a kid in PE, have them play all the sports. Don't just go and specify just one sport and that's it. Which it's a lot of mistakes are made, especially here in the Miami area. I see it all the time. Baseball, it's the answer. You get what I'm saying? And then you compare it to kids that have played multi sports, and their movements are better. Even the mindset is different because it has been developed through different movements and different aspects of games and different needs. So the younger you are, you have to be able to build that base. The older you get, it becomes more specific to whatever sport's chosen, whatever position is chosen. That's when all the variables and the assessing the athlete comes into play, and it's very important to use.
So would you say, Alex, like, let's say, for instance, in baseball, okay, us three are baseball guys. Sorry, Zach.
It's all good, man. It's okay.
But
talk about football one time. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, let's say
Roll tie.
That's right. Roll Tide.
let's say it in baseball. Like when I was younger, they were just telling me, and obviously there's wrong things out there in Pee Wee League and all that stuff. They were just telling me, play more games. You're gonna keep playing, and you got to swing the bat as much as you can. And I was never really working out. Really, I was just playing more games. I was playing like 3 leagues, blowing my arm out. I got tendonitis at the age 14.
Jeez.
So at that age, should they be working out more, or should they be playing more games?
Kids at that age should absolutely be working out more and working more on becoming a better athlete in general. And the analogy I always use that kind of gets people to think about this a little bit different is, if I brought you into a classroom and gave you a math test and said, okay, here, take this test. When you're done, I'm going to grade it. If you took it, I graded it, you got a C, and I gave it back to you and said, okay, good, you did it, you got a C, but I'm going to test you again tomorrow, and didn't tell you what you got right or wrong, you would never know what to test for or what to study for. So if you're just constantly testing, playing more and more games, you don't have the opportunity to become a better athlete. You don't have the opportunity to become bigger or faster or stronger. You're just going to be as physically good as you are at that moment. Now, that's not to say that there isn't some validity to playing more games, because in order to get better game experience, you obviously have to play more games. But kids at preteen kids that are pre-puberty, kids that are pre-high school do not need to be playing, even year-round. Those kids should be playing one single season, and they should spend the majority of their time working on their skills and working on their general physical preparedness.
Yeah. Now, I want to get into them right now, like the different sports. Okay, I mean, there's many different sports in there.
Cool.
There are many different sports
your
out there.
time to
If
shine,
you guys
Zach.
didn't know, if you guys didn't know, there's a lot of different sports out there. But like, so I'm curious, and I'm pretty sure everybody out there is curious also. Like, when you think about a football player versus a baseball player, or let's get even more extreme. Let's say a runner
Oh,
versus
a sprinter. You know what I mean?
versus a football player. Okay, where it's more fast, more explosive, and I'm talking about like a long distance runner.
Okay.
I'm thinking long distance
I
runner.
was about to say, because
Not sprinter. I know you're thinking
Fucking
sprinter.
yeah.
But Zach, like, for instance, yeah, let's say a football player, or maybe a football player is too bad because it's so many different positions.
No, I think you're on the right track.
Yeah.
Whenever it comes to like long distance and football players, like in essence, football, like most plays in football last, what would it be, like barely 8 seconds at the
Something like
longest.
that. That's the
you know,
longest.
that's the longest.
Yeah.
And if you got a long distance runner, that could last over an hour, depending upon like the length of travel that they do. So ideally, like in terms of like working different systems, like they're on two totally opposite ends of the spectrum. Like one, you have football would be anaerobic alactic, pretty sure. And then long distance running would be oxidative aerobics. So I think in terms of that, it's such a different animal, like when it comes to football. So working with athletes, like for GPP wise, you might have to tailor your conditioning that you do with them, depending upon the athlete, depending upon the sport, depending upon the block or the placement or the week of the program. You're gonna have to tailor their conditioning or their exercise routine towards possibly working that certain amount of time. So like with my fighter, in essence, like there was times where we do a lot of GPP work or conditioning work that would train the oxidative systems or metabolic threshold systems that would tailor towards certain aspects of a fight. In essence, I just rambled. Did I just ramble?
So you
that was
no,
good,
no,
man.
it's good.
You lost me, but I was
Yeah,
good.
I do
A lot
that.
of signs there, but
No,
Not bad.
But basically,
you're good.
basically, you're saying that you want the training to like kind of mimic the sport that they're playing.
Yeah, in
Right?
in essence, yeah.
I mean, at
somewhat,
times,
somewhat,
like, sometimes
yeah.
you're just gonna need, you gotta, you have to be familiar with what the sport
Demands it.
demands exactly. So, and then again, the sport may demand certain things, but the athlete may not be ready for that. So it's the matter of designing the program to hit those needs, and maybe getting, once you start building those blocks, those training blocks, you're able to get closer to that end goal and get that individual ready for season, for competition, or whether it's a season or a match. You get what I'm saying? Like you have to get them ready for that. And I also believe that just because of physical preparedness, you can also build a mentality where if that in this case of a fighter or a runner, getting closer to the competition, the game, the match, the training cycle and the training blocks could potentially, as a good strength coach, you can maybe demand even mentally from that athlete, however it is. I follow good coaches that even things that the words that they use can definitely play into it, have a huge effect on that athlete. And I think also understanding the athlete's needs, learning from your athlete, from an individual athlete, observing. That's one of my biggest things that I like to do is I like to observe my athletes. How they come in the gym. Are they hyped up to come work out, or do they seem a little down? Sometimes they throw you a curveball, how they feel. So at times you just got to back it down or kind of test them.
Yeah, because a lot of these, obviously a lot of these sports is very mental. It's very mental. For one, baseball, fighting for sure. Even long distance running, I like to run a lot. I have to constantly be talking to myself, and that actually brings up a good point, because I was reading something about Michael Phelps. I don't know if you guys have read about his coach, and he got him very young, and he was very hyper. I think he had ADHD or something like that, and what he started telling him was to he basically had the build, perfect build as a swimmer. And then what the coach said was, listen, he started working mentally with him. So he would tell him every time after practice, he would tell him, Mike, go watch the videotape before you go home. And watching the videotape before you go home meant the perfect race. So Mike, every single night, would go home and he would picture that perfect race every single time. And that just got him to a level mentally that now you see him, with his Phelps face or whatever it's called, with his headphones on, and he's just getting in the zone. Now I just went on a rant there, but but it's great. I think that's another topic that we should talk on another podcast. But
The athlete mentality.
the athlete mentality, yeah, probably that's the next one. But now we talked about stamina sports versus more explosive sports. But so do you guys? Is your program obviously is different between a football player and a baseball player and a soccer player and a basketball player? Or do you guys have certain programs for every sport, or how do you do that, Alex?
One of the things that I was going to bring up that you talked about earlier was doing specific movements for specific sports.
Yeah.
And reality is you can strip all that away. And when you look at certain sports, just from a biomechanical standpoint and from an energy system standpoint, a lot of sports are going to have very common threads going through them. Okay. Like, for instance, there's no reason to train a pitcher, a quarterback, a volleyball player, and a tennis player any different in respect to their needs for shoulder and elbow stability, because they're all doing the same exact movement.
Overhead throwers.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's all very short duration, very explosive movements in all of those. So there's no reason to differentiate the training in between those people.
Okay.
Where you run into needing to broaden the base of training is when you talk about football, where a quarterback is definitely not going to have the same needs as a lineman, is definitely not going to have the same needs as a wide receiver, is definitely not going to have the same needs as a kicker. So that's when you need to start differentiating with your sport-specific training to accommodate the needs of each individual position. Now, that being said, the one thing that we were touching on before was energy systems. And I know it's one of my biggest pet peeves, and it's definitely one of George's biggest pet peeves, is a lot of times strength coaches don't take that into consideration, or just team coaches don't take that into consideration when they're working with their kids. And the biggest thing here is running long distance in baseball. Because in baseball, you never, ever, ever run long distance.
Dude, they would tell me that
Ever.
all the
Coaches.
time. They would tell me that all the time. I was a pitcher, and that's how
Exactly.
they made me
And that's the whole thing here is, if you break pitching down into its components, what are you doing? So as a pitcher, you're getting the ball, you're standing on the mound, you're going through your windup, you're making an explosive movement towards the plate at 100% of whatever you've got with a tiny little, what is it, a 4 ounce or 8 ounce, whatever the ball weighs. So
It's 5.
5 ounce. So you're throwing a 5 ounce object as hard as you can, 60 feet 6 inches.
Mm-hmm.
You're taking about a 30-second break, and you're doing it again, and you're repeating that 100 times over the course of a game. So why then, to become a better pitcher and to physically prepare yourself for pitching, would you choose to do a low intensity, long duration exercise with no breaks in between? So you're actually training the exact
Opposite.
wrong energy system. Exactly.
Yeah.
So in essence, what you're doing is it's a detriment to your performance to train that way. And like I told you earlier when we spoke, if you reverse that and you took a soccer player and you told the soccer player, well, we're never going to run long distance, because why should you? They would look at you like you're crazy, because soccer players run long distance, so obviously they have to run long distance. But as a baseball player, if you tell someone that, hey, we're going to have our pitchers who never do anything, never run, period, we're going to have them run miles upon miles upon miles. It's like, yeah, that makes sense, total sense. Yeah, that's right. And in actuality, it's just something that's been perpetuated forever in baseball, because your coach did it, because his coach did it, because his coach did it, because his coach did it. It's unfortunate.
And it's got to be right. You get what I'm saying? It's one of those things.
It's been around so long, it has to be right.
How could it be wrong?
Yeah.
And you hear it all the time. It's you don't know how many times I hear the justification on it. It's, well, some of these coaches are doing it to weed out the guys that don't belong. Look, they want me to get it. I don't get that. You can weed them out in other ways. And still, the ones that don't belong, they're not going to belong. But you can help out the ones that do belong. So why are you going to hurt the ones that do belong, where you can do things that are going to be just as, let's say, tough, right? But still get some good out of it. You know, maybe some sprints, and then you just add a little bit more sprints or whatever. You still get something out of it. But then, you know, they still use that justification of, well, some of these coaches are making these guys run 2-3 miles because, you know, they want to see who's doing it. You know, they want, well, look, you're hurting more than what you're helping.
Yeah.
But hey, whatever.
I mean, I just want to highlight that again, especially everybody who plays baseball here in Miami, because I mean, I played here mostly, and all they would tell me is to run as a pitcher. So you heard it here first.
And
well, first, or maybe you hear it again and again and again.
It also goes back into football too with the conditioning test they have preseason. You know, those linemen, they're never going to be running 50 yards, 100 yards ever. Those guys need to train just like a pitcher would train. High intensity, low duration. I mean, those guys, like we were saying earlier, the longest play in football is 8 seconds that those guys have to block for?
Yeah,
so why do those guys have to run 100 yards? It doesn't make sense. And there's no way to predict that, if this guy can master this conditioning test, he's going to be a beast on the field. It's usually the exact opposite. The guys that are more skilled SPP-wise are usually the guys that can succeed much better than the guys that are just monsters in the gym.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to ask you guys one more question because I'm kind of running out of time here. Running on the same thing here, like, you know, all these kids are doing, a lot of these kids are doing the wrong training when they're young, you know, and then that messes them up in the long run. So what can we tell those parents out there, those athletes out there, even the older athletes who probably didn't get the correct training and they're looking for somewhere, you know, for the right information, especially nowadays when so much information out there and they're getting information from who knows what on Instagram and, you know, again, Pee-wee Schmidt or something, I don't know. And
the foot ladder.
Yeah, right? Like, where can we send them, you know? I mean, obviously, Society Speaks.
I mean,
can
send them right to our gym if they really want good information.
They're welcome.
At Iron Society Gym, but you know how can they tell if it's right, if it's wrong? What do we tell these guys?
Well,
I mean, honestly, be open-minded, but don't be naive too. Like, the fanciest things isn't always the best things. You know, you see a dude moving really fast in a very small space. That doesn't mean he's hella fast or something like that. Just be open-minded. And I guess do your Googles too. You know what I mean? Like,
Googles.
Like, look up like actual, like, factual, like, smart people. Like, don't just look at George down the street, not you, but the other, like, George down the street who's running.
George with a G.
Out of all the names,
my fault though. You know, just don't go down the street and look at the guy who's running around cones and running around ladders and all that stuff.
Just to look good.
Yeah,
sometimes it's not just about, you know, a lot of times they follow the crowd. You know, everything's like follow the crowd. This new gym opened up and everything, and not against any gym that opens up, obviously, but do your research. You know, do what most people won't, and it's doing their research. It's asking questions. Okay, it's okay for a parent to ask 100 questions. We have to answer them. And I get a lot of parents that don't ask questions at all. And it's like, how are you not going to ask questions if you're investing money in your son? When you go buy a car, I guarantee you have a billion questions, right? When you're doing any transaction that you're investing your money, you're going to have questions. You're just not going to throw your money away. Why wouldn't you do it when you're paying? This is not a free business, right? It's not a free service.
Yep.
Why wouldn't you ask questions? You know, hey, what are your credentials? What do you do? What is it that you're going to do with my kid? I want to learn because ultimately I don't know. And that's pretty much how it is. You have to research and ask questions.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Alex, you want to say something?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that George and Zach were trying to hit on was be an informed consumer. Just know what you're purchasing. And like George was saying, if you were going to make a big purchase and buy a car, you'd have 1,000 questions. You do hours and hours of research beforehand. If you're going to entrust someone with the health of your child or your health, ask them questions. And the other thing too is don't buy into social media marketing hype. The people who pose next to the professional athletes and the people who look the best on social media are not necessarily the best trainers. The guys who are really good trainers and the guys who you should listen to are the people who can take those kids that are borderline college athletes or borderline Division I athletes or borderline high school athletes and turn them into something where that kid is then a starter. Yeah, maybe if nobody would have worked with him, he would never have played, but now he's starting. Or that kid never gets that scholarship, but now that he worked with you, now he's got a full ride. Those are the coaches that deserve your money. Those are the coaches that you should be spending your hard-earned money with.
Yeah.
Not the person that just stands next to the professional athlete in the picture, because that's just ridiculous.
Yeah, and I mean, I can note on that too. Like, take it from me, I'm the marketing guy. I've worked with people that, like, I felt bad doing the work. I was like, man, I'm not coming back to this because I know they're doing some shady things out there. But, well, with all that said, I mean, finally, our first podcast, guys, was great.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah.
Thanks, Zach.
Yo, you're welcome. You're welcome, George.
Yeah, I want to thank Mike Merchant for helping us out today. Really big thanks. Thank you guys for listening. If you're listening or watching, and we're gonna be doing this recording at least once a month. So please share it with your friends. Whether you're watching or listening, just share it with your friends. The more support we get, the more we can do this. We're just trying to help you guys out and create value for you guys, give you more knowledge so you guys don't go in the gym, not knowing what you're gonna do, just or handicaps. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Iron Society Gym. Hope this helps you guys. I'm signing out. Kevin Bryant, Mr. George Gutierrez, Mr. Alex Credo, and Zach Mann. I love all you guys. Peace.